There's a scent that brings money into the room before your wallet even opens. Another that softens an argument before a single word is spoken. And one that clears your mind so cleanly, it feels like you opened a window, except nothing moved but the air around you. Most people walk into their home and accept whatever atmosphere greets them. But scent is not just a mood. It's memory, emotion, direction, and power, embedded in particles so fine, we hardly notice them shaping our day. Today, I'm going to show you something few people talk about: how the herbs sitting in your kitchen, mint, lemon balm, lavender, and basil, are not just seasonings. They're energetic instruments. And when arranged with purpose, these humble plants become tools of clarity, prosperity, and personal strength, all grounded in classical feng shui principles. This isn't a recipe video. This is a guide for reclaiming the energy of your space through something you already interact with daily: scent. You won't need a loud altar, crystals in every corner, or a complex grid of boudoir zones. All you need is the willingness to look at what's growing on your windowsill, or what could be, and begin a new relationship with it. Because each herb we're about to discuss isn't just aromatic. It holds an elemental frequency, and when paired with intention and placement, it reshapes the invisible energy map of your home. Let's begin with mint. Not just the burst in your toothpaste or the garnish on your summer drink. Mint is movement. It's North Zone Qi in its purest form: directional, upward, and activating. If you felt stuck lately, mentally cluttered, professionally directionless, or financially sluggish, this is the plant you bring in. It doesn't just look fresh, it activates freshness in your thinking, in your communication, in your momentum. And by the time we reach Basil, you'll understand why this herb has been placed at temple doors and sacred gates for centuries. Its aroma not only attracts good fortune, it purifies the spirit as it enters. It's bold, holy, and decisive. There's a reason it sits in the south and southeast zones in feng shui, not just because it smells good in pasta, but because it burns through stagnation and reminds you to lead with both heart and fire. But here's where things get personal. One of these herbs, lavender, was once used backstage by one of the world's most powerful entertainers to completely reset the mood of her team before a major live broadcast. The dressing room was tense, nerves were high, schedules were off. A small diffuser with just 3 drops of lavender oil and a live pot of the plant shifted the energy in under 15 minutes. People relaxed, focus returned. That show went on to be one of the most seamless performances in her tour schedule. I'll tell you more about that moment later, but keep in mind, scent changes everything. You just have to learn to use it like a tool, not a background fragrance. And don't worry, this video won't leave you with theory alone. By the end, I'll show you how to combine these 4 herbs into a DIY energy mist that you can use to clear stuck qi from your room, your desk, or your energy field in under 60 seconds. You don't need to burn anything. You don't need to chant anything. You just need water, plants, and presence. That's the kind of ritual modern life can actually sustain. Now, before we dive into the energetic profiles of each plant, I want to ask something of you. If you've been enjoying this journey, learning how everyday items can carry ancient power, then help me grow this mindful, grounded community. Give this video a like, share it with someone who loves their home and their peace, and subscribe to New Day Mindfulness so I can keep bringing you more teachings that are not just beautiful, but functional, transformational, and rooted in real energy work. I'm almost at 2,000 subscribers, and your support helps bring these practices to more homes that need them. So take a breath, smell the air around you. Is it moving your energy forward or just sitting still? By the time we're finished, you'll know exactly how to shape that invisible field and turn your home into a garden of clarity, wealth, and calm, one scented leaf at a time. Let's begin. Why scent and herbs matter in feng shui. In the practice of feng shui, every element of your home carries energy. Shape, color, orientation, and material all interact to influence how qi flows through space. But among all these layers of energetic language, there is one that often slips past conscious awareness, yet speaks most directly to the body: scent. Unlike objects which we process visually or textures which require physical touch, scent bypasses reason and enters through the breath. It travels immediately to the limbic system, the part of the brain that governs emotion, memory, and instinct. And because of this direct access, scent holds a unique position in energetic systems like feng shui. It becomes qi in its most refined, penetrative form. Not symbolic, not theoretical, immediate, transformative. When you walk into a room and inhale a scent, whether floral, woody, citrusy, or herbal, your body responds before your mind even registers it. You may feel more alert, more at ease, more focused, or more grounded, and in feng shui terms, that's an energy shift. That's the invisible architecture being reshaped in real time. Most people associate feng shui with spatial arrangements, where the bed goes, where the mirror shouldn't face, how to activate the wealth corner. But the truth is, many of the most powerful feng shui corrections have nothing to do with big renovations or furniture placement. Sometimes it's the subtlest of adjustments, introducing scent into a stagnant room, for example, that catalyzes the most immediate transformation. This is why herbs matter. Fresh herbs don't just live, they breathe. They carry scent, they carry elemental associations, and they carry intention. In feng shui, herbs embody both wood and fire. Wood represents growth, initiation, and flexibility. Fire represents transformation, focus, and visibility. Together, these elements create a synergistic effect. Wood gives the desire to act. Fire gives the clarity to act wisely. When you grow herbs like mint, lavender, basil, or lemon balm in your kitchen or windowsill, you're not just cultivating flavor, you're cultivating directional energy. Each herb offers a different vibration, linked to a particular function of the body or the home. Mint activates, lemon balm soothes, lavender protects, basil grounds and uplifts simultaneously. These are not just kitchen ingredients. They are mood tools, spatial medicines, intentional symbols. And when used wisely, they can recalibrate your inner world just as effectively as they influence your outer one. Consider also the nature of herbs as a bridge between utility and spirituality. In feng shui, the most powerful objects are those that perform on both levels. A bowl of oranges brings health and luck, but also provides nourishment. A mirror redirects energy, but also expands light. Similarly, herbs are not just symbols. They are sensory, functional, and alive. You can cook with them, sip them in tea, crush them in your fingers, smell them during a tense conversation, or simply let their presence alter the qi of a corner. This multi-dimensional utility gives herbs a powerful energetic authority. You are not just decorating with them, you are living with them. And they, in turn, shape the way you live. Another often overlooked aspect of herbs is their accessibility. You don't need a large home or expensive accessories to incorporate them into your space. A sunny windowsill, a ceramic pot, and a little water are often all you need. Yet the energy they introduce is profound. A sprig of mint near your entryway can clear stagnant career energy. A pot of lavender beside your bathtub can shield your mind from residual stress. A few basil leaves in your kitchen can subtly shift your mindset toward generosity, clarity, and abundance. And unlike artificial air fresheners, which carry synthetics and sometimes even disrupt energetic balance, these plants do their work through life force alone. Their scent is qi, their presence is intentional, their use is transformative. There is also a temporal dimension to herbs that aligns with the philosophy of seasonal energy. In spring, when wood is dominant, herbs activate forward movement in the desire to start fresh. In summer, when fire dominates, their fragrance sharpens intention and heightens visibility. Even in fall and winter, when introspection and slowing down become natural, herbs like lavender and lemon balm can help preserve calm, protect inner space, and soothe overactive thinking. This makes herbs not just static features in your space, but living participants in the seasonal rhythms of your home. They shift with you and you with them. That's dynamic feng shui. But perhaps the most compelling reason to pay attention to scent and herbs in your feng shui practice is the emotional intelligence they bring. We live in a world that increasingly demands mental productivity at the expense of emotional presence. We are taught to design for efficiency, not resonance. And yet, the home is not a machine. It is a living field of memory, aspiration, fear, rest, joy. Herbs help us listen to that field. They tell us, through scent, when something needs softening, when a space has become too brittle, when a conversation needs buffering, when a mind needs clearing. They become energetic translators between what is seen and what is felt. So when we talk about using herbs in feng shui, we are not merely talking about decor or scent preference. We are talking about agency, your power to shape the emotional texture of your home using elements that are ancient, and aligned with your well-being. And we are talking about accessibility. Whether you live in a studio apartment or a large home, whether your windows face south or north, there is always a way to place an herb where it can work with you, silently, continuously, gently shifting the tone of your environment. These are not just plants, they are allies in your practice of intentional living. And in a world that often feels overwhelming and ungrounded, that kind of allyship is invaluable. Now that we've laid the foundation for why herbs and scent are far more than mere aesthetic enhancements, let's take a closer look at 4 specific herbs that offer unique energetic functions. You'll see how each one supports a specific emotional and spiritual pattern, and how, when used strategically, they can elevate the chi of your entire space while staying in full harmony with your lifestyle, your cooking routine, and your spiritual aspirations. Because in feng shui, everything counts. In scent, it just might count the most. Let's begin. Herb 1, mint, the activator of mental flow and wealth movement. In the energetic landscape of feng shui, mint is not a background player, it's a bold activator. It arrives in your home with a frequency that is unmistakably assertive, even if its leaves seem gentle and familiar. Its cooling, crisp signature is more than refreshing. It cuts through the energetic fog that collects in homes where clarity is missing, where plans have stalled, or where routines have gone stale. When you bring mint into a space, you're not simply adding fragrance or greenery. You're introducing motion. You're summoning the wood element's promise of upward growth and combining it with water's guidance and direction. Mint is a catalyst, and for people who feel like their home no longer energizes their purpose, this herb can be a turning point. In feng shui, the north area of a home corresponds to career, life path, and momentum. When this zone is weak, cluttered, empty, underlit, or energetically stagnant, you may begin to feel unsure of your direction. Decisions get delayed, motivation dims, mental clarity blurs. Mint, when placed intentionally in the north zone, behaves like a compass that doesn't just point north, but points inward, toward the parts of yourself that know what to do but have been waiting for the air to clear. The sharpness of mint's aroma stimulates mental awareness and decision-making capacity, which makes it especially useful for individuals working from home or those navigating periods of professional change. It helps stabilize mental energy, which in turn reactivates the flow of outer opportunity. But mint's utility doesn't end with the north. In the southeast, which governs wealth and long-term abundance, mint carries a different message. Movement invites money. Too often, the energy in this corner gets blocked by clutter or becomes inert through aesthetic choices that lack vibrancy. Mint offers a remedy through motion. Its scent moving chi, its growth pattern expressing momentum, its color anchoring vibrancy. In this position, mint becomes more than a plant. It becomes a financial stimulant, not in the magical sense of attracting money with a wish, but in the energetic sense of removing friction and awakening internal motivation. It supports productivity, encourages conscious decision-making, and clears emotional distractions that often prevent us from taking aligned financial action. When placing mint, the environment matters. It thrives in bright kitchens, along sunny windowsills, and in window boxes where it can breathe and reach. These locations are not only horticulturally beneficial, but symbolically supportive. The kitchen is a heart of nourishment and production. Placing mint here amplifies intention around daily vitality and forward movement. At the entrance of the home, mint creates an immediate energetic cue. You've stepped into a space where chi is active, moving, alert. It tells guests and yourself this is not a place for stagnation. It's a space for clarity and conscious growth. However, mint should not be placed in the bedroom. Its activating quality can be too mentally stimulating for a space intended for rest and subconscious processing. Bedrooms benefit from herbs that buffer and contain energy, not ones that stir and expand it. Even though mint is calming in some situations, in sleep environments, it can provoke wakefulness or mental looping. To enhance mint's effect, consider placing it in a ceramic pot that aligns with the water element, black or navy blue being ideal colors. This not only complements mint's energetic signature, but also amplifies the water-wood cycle in the 5-element theory. Water feeds wood. Direction feeds growth. Intention feeds results. This cycle of support is what keeps the mint energetically sharp, aligned, and functional. You are not just planting a seed, you are activating a cycle. That's what distinguishes decorative gardening from energetic design. One particularly compelling example of mint's power in high-performance settings comes from an unexpected source: Beyoncé's tour preparation. In an interview with her personal chef, it was revealed that fresh mint is always kept in her dressing room, not only for culinary or aromatic pleasure, but to help shift energy during moments of stress and high stakes. Think about that. In the middle of multi-million-dollar live productions, with teams moving at relentless speed and expectations at global scale, a single herb was used not to calm, but to clarify. Mint, through its cooling and clear frequency, reset the mental field, not just for Beyoncé, but for the people around her. It created a mental zone where excellence could be summoned, even under pressure. And this is what mint does in your home. It allows for precision when the external world becomes chaotic. It steadies your mind when emotions become too loud. It protects your focus from entropy. It doesn't push, it guides, and it does so not with force, but with sharpness. This sharpness, however, must be maintained. Like all living things, mint communicates through its vitality. A wilting or overgrown mint plant suggests neglected motion, plans unacted upon, thoughts unspoken, ambitions postponed. Feng Shui teaches that the condition of your plants reflects the condition of your qi. If your mint plant is vibrant, your energy is likely in movement. If it is dull or overrun, it may be time to prune not just the plant, but your own mental patterns. Are you holding on to too many ideas? Are you resisting the first step? Mint doesn't ask you to sprint. It asks you to begin. That's why it's often associated with the breath, the lungs, the voice. It encourages expression. It reminds you to speak what matters and to breathe through what overwhelms. In practical terms, mint is incredibly accessible. It grows fast, adapts easily, and responds visibly to care. Its leaves can be harvested frequently without harming the plant. This makes it ideal for regular energetic interaction. Don't just look at your mint, touch it. Rub the leaves between your fingers before a Zoom call, a difficult conversation, or a financial decision. Let the scent hit your nose and see how your mental state shifts. That's real-time chi work. That's the body responding to the environment and the environment responding in turn. So if your home has started to feel a little too quiet in the wrong way, if your motivation has dulled, or your ability to think strategically has taken a backseat to overwhelm, mint may be your first ally. It doesn't just fill space, it opens it. It doesn't just freshen a room, it reclaims it. And in a world that increasingly values aesthetic over alignment, the humble mint plant reminds us that clarity is not always found in silence. Sometimes it's found in the whisper of green leaves, the scent that cuts through noise, and the simple reminder that movement is still possible. One breath, one decision, one sprig at a time. Mint is not decoration, it's direction. And in feng shui, that makes all the difference. Herb number 2, lemon balm, the emotional reset and abundance stabilizer. Among all the herbs used in feng shui-inspired spaces, lemon balm holds a particularly compassionate and stabilizing role. Its presence is not loud, but it is unmistakably comforting. With its sweet, citrusy scent and light, almost silken lips, lemon balm functions as a kind of emotional moderator within the energetic environment of the home. It doesn't charge forward like mint or anchor like basil. Instead, it offers the energetic equivalent of a soft reset. In spaces where the emotional tone has become erratic, sharp, or burdened by passive conflict, this herb quietly absorbs the fragments and reassembles them into peace. This quality, subtle emotional cleansing without confrontation, makes lemon balm a spiritual asset in households where harmony is often challenged not by chaos but by buildup, small misunderstandings, unsaid thoughts, repressed stress. In feng shui, this herb resonates strongly with the East sector, the zone that governs family health, lineage, and physical vitality. Lemon balm's effects are both symbolic and physiological. It assists in digestive function, which in energetic terms reflects our ability to process life. Whether it's a difficult conversation, a change in routine, or emotional debris left over from a long day, lemon balm helps the energetic body digest rather than suppress, resolve rather than escalate. Its scent is light and bright, but what it does is deeply grounding. This polarity, airiness combined with inner gravity, is what makes it so effective for reestablishing balance in emotionally overstimulated homes. Think about shared dining rooms where old disagreements resurface at the table, or kitchen spaces where multiple generations converge with unspoken tension. These are spaces where energy is alive, but not always harmonious. Introducing lemon balm here doesn't just brighten the air, it pacifies it. It acts as a lubricant for difficult communication, helping words move more gently and land more clearly. From a 5-element perspective, lemon balm unites wood and earth. It grows quickly and horizontally like wood, reaching, spreading, seeking, but its emotional resonance pulls downward toward grounding, like earth. When placed in a yellow planter, a color linked to the earth element, lemon balm becomes an even more effective stabilizer. The color and the herb collaborate to create a field of gentle containment, where emotions don't spill over but settle and integrate. This becomes particularly useful in American homes with open concept layouts, where kitchens bleed into living rooms and multiple energetic stories unfold in one shared space. In these designs, energy tends to move too fast, with little delineation between personal and collective fields. Lemon balm helps create invisible boundaries that are felt, not seen, allowing family members to coexist more peacefully without the need to physically separate. The placement of lemon balm should be both strategic and symbolic. In the kitchen, it supports not only food digestion, but emotional digestion. It absorbs the lingering tension that can hover in space where responsibilities collide. Children needing attention while meals are cooked, partners navigating work stress while passing through shared zones. Its gentle scent offers emotional recalibration in real time. In the dining area, it presides quietly over shared meals and conversations, helping recenter the family unit during moments of disconnection or overstimulation. It reminds the space to slow down, to nourish, to breathe. Lemon balm doesn't push a message, it diffuses one. And while it thrives outdoors in warm climates, it adapts beautifully to indoor life with access to a sunny sill or partial shade. Its maintenance is low effort, making it perfect for households with busy routines. Even if you only use it occasionally, its very presence in the home carries a field of quiet emotional support. It does not demand rituals or schedules. It only asks for light, water, and a little attention, qualities, coincidentally, that most family relationships need to thrive as well. One of the most effective ways to use lemon balm beyond planting is to engage with it physically during moments of tension. Crush a few leaves gently between your fingers. Inhale. Add them to hot water and sip slowly. Let the scent and the warmth move into the nervous system and communicate a simple message. All of this can settle. Energetically, this act becomes a moment of pause, a conscious choice not to escalate, but to regulate. In homes where passive-aggressive energy builds, where doors are closed a little too hard, or conversations end in silence rather than clarity, these tiny interactions with the herb become powerful course correctors. You're not just drinking a calming tea. You're training the space to remember how peace feels. For households with children or multi-generational living, lemon balm becomes even more important. Kids respond intuitively to scent. They don't intellectualize mood the way adults do, but they can feel when a room is safe or when something feels off. Lemon balm helps maintain that invisible sense of emotional predictability that children thrive on. For aging parents, especially those who may be sensitive to synthetic fragrances or harsh cleaning products, lemon balm offers a natural alternative, gentle on the senses, strong on the spirit. In modern American life, where the household often doubles as a workplace, a schoolroom, and a sanctuary all in one, the role of this herb cannot be overstated. Emotional clarity, especially the kind that supports abundance, is not about silence or uniformity. It's about energy that moves smoothly between people, tasks, and spaces. Lemon balm supports this movement not by creating euphoria or artificial calm, but by dissolving excess and anchoring what remains. It's not sedative, it's integrative. And in the context of feng shui's deeper philosophy, abundance is not simply measured by how much money flows in. It's measured by how stable the household feels when the external world gets unpredictable. It's measured by how conflicts resolve, how family members communicate, how quickly recovery happens after stress. Lemon balm, when used with awareness, strengthens these inner dynamics. It clears the air, literally and symbolically, so that abundance isn't just about gain, but about sustain. If your household has been carrying emotional weight that doesn't seem to go away with conversation or decluttering, consider lemon balm not as an herb, but as an energetic participant. Let it sit near the stove. Let it listen to the conversations. Let it breathe with the home. Its leaves will curl toward the light, but its presence will reach into places most words can't. In the silence between meals, in the space after a disagreement, in the moment before someone speaks their truth, this herb becomes the stabilizer, the emotional equalizer, the keeper of peace in a space that wants to return to balance. That is lemon balm's gift. And in feng shui, where energy and intention are inseparable, that gift is gold. Herb 3, lavender, the harmonizer of yin and mental boundaries. Lavender is a plant that teaches through presence. It doesn't compete for attention or demand to be noticed, yet when introduced into a space with intention, its impact is profound and unmistakable. In feng shui, lavender holds a unique frequency, one that carries both softness and structure, yin energy with an internal backbone. While many plants stimulate or circulate qi, lavender stabilizes it. Its scent alone is capable of shifting an emotional atmosphere from chaos to calm, from overstimulation to surrender, from scattered to sacred. But the reason lavender is so essential in energetic design is not just because of its calming aroma or visual beauty. It's because it does something very few elements in feng shui can do. It restores boundaries, not through resistance, but through resonance. In households where life feels overfull, where digital noise, family schedules, emotional spillover, or hyperproductivity have turned the space into a constant push, lavender acts like an energetic exhale. It slows the field, it holds the line, and it does so without cutting off connection. That is the essence of healthy yin: containment without disconnection, receptivity without depletion. For highly sensitive individuals, empaths, or those who work in service-based professions and bring emotional residue home with them, lavender becomes not just a relaxing scent, but a necessity. It functions as an invisible boundary between the self and the world. In this way, lavender is less a decorative herb and more a frequency stabilizer. It tunes the space to rest, not collapse, to quiet, not withdrawal. Feng Shui identifies the southwest zone as the relational sector of the home. It governs how you connect with others, romantically, familially, socially. This is where lavender thrives, both symbolically and practically. When placed in this corner, lavender reinforces communication that is tender, yet firm. It helps release relational anxiety and over-attachment while fostering heart-based presence. It allows people to speak without defensiveness and listen without contraction. Its influence is particularly helpful in shared bedrooms or partnership corners, where emotional vulnerability must coexist with emotional safety. Lavender brings in the softness that allows intimacy to grow, but also the inner structure that prevents energetic enmeshment. Equally powerful is lavender's effect in the northeast sector, which governs self-knowledge, reflection, and spiritual grounding. Many people decorate their homes without attending to this zone, yet neglecting the northeast means neglecting the part of yourself that seeks wisdom over reaction. Placing lavender in this area, whether through a potted plant, a sachet, or even a small lavender-infused candle, creates a field of introspective clarity. It supports journaling, meditation, dream work, and silence. Not the silence of avoidance, but the silence where insight arrives. The northeast is also where you anchor your intentions before you move forward in life. Lavender helps you sit with those intentions until they solidify. It slows down mental racing and invites contemplative depth. This is why lavender belongs on meditation altars, beside bathtubs, on nightstands, or next to your most personal books. It doesn't belong in workspaces where its sedative effect could unintentionally disrupt flow or diminish drive. Lavender is about depth, not momentum. Placement should be considered not just for light, but for airflow. Lavender loves sun and circulation. It thrives in rooms that receive natural light and gentle breezes, conditions that mirror the mental environment it helps cultivate. A stagnant room will mute its potency. An overactive room will pull on it too quickly. Aim for balance. Spaces that are already intended for rest or spiritual connection, and lavender will magnify the emotional tone. A bedroom window is ideal. So is a reading corner, a bathtub ledge, or any transitional zone where the outer world is meant to be released and the inner world allowed to surface. A lavender plant beside a meditation mat can silently communicate to your nervous system. This is where you return to yourself. To further enhance its energy, pair lavender with rose quartz. This crystal, known for heart healing and gentle emotional opening, resonates beautifully with lavender's frequency. While lavender defines the boundary, rose quartz fills the space within it. The two together send a powerful message to the room. Softness is strength. Stillness is strategy. Care is clarity. If you've experienced emotional overwhelm, heartbreak, anxiety, or the subtle exhaustion of being on for too long, this pairing becomes not just helpful, but deeply reparative. Energetically, it says, you are allowed to pause. You are allowed to recover. Another way lavender supports your energetic field is by extending protection into the subconscious. Unlike other herbs that work during waking hours, lavender offers particular strength at night. Keeping a small bundle near your personal journal or under your pillow helps buffer the emotional bleed-through that can occur during dreams or restless sleep. It creates a psychic boundary, shielding your dream state from the unresolved daytime tension. For those doing deep healing work or spiritual integration, this practice becomes essential. It's not just about sleep quality, it's about soul quality. The lavender holds the room while your subconscious releases and rebuilds. It's a silent guard, an invisible hand on your shoulder saying, you're safe to let go now. In homes where energy runs high, be it through young children, constant movement, or high-pressure routines, lavender plays the role of the elder. Not because of age, but because of wisdom. It brings maturity into the field. It offers a slower breath, a longer view, a soft strength that says we don't have to rush through life to live it fully. And in doing so, it reminds everyone who enters the room that rest is not laziness, reflection is not indulgence, and silence is not absence. They are all essential forms of energetic recalibration. And finally, there is something remarkably accessible about lavender. You don't need acres of land or a lifestyle of meditation retreats to benefit from it. A small pot, a good window, a few minutes of care a week, and the energy shift is real. You feel it when you exhale more deeply, when your tone softens mid-conversation, when you start noticing your body's signals again. That is not coincidence. That is the subtle intelligence of lavender at work. It's not dramatic, but it is decisive. It doesn't need to dominate your decor to be effective. It only needs to be respected and used with care. In feng shui, the goal is never perfection. It's presence. Lavender brings you back to that, not by filling a room with fragrance, but by guiding the energy of that room back to a frequency that protects, soothes, and restores. In homes where stimulation is constant and energy is often projected outward, lavender reminds you to draw that energy inward again, to hold it, to bless it, and then only when it's ready, to release it. That's the power of this herb, quiet, rooted, and infinitely wise. Herb 4, Basil, the integrator of spirit, wealth, and action. Basil is a plant that doesn't wait for permission. The moment it enters a room, whether freshly picked or growing in a pot, it brings with it a scent that is bold, structured, and commanding. While many herbs serve to soothe or pacify, basil does something different. It energizes with clarity. In feng shui, it is recognized not just for its rich fragrance or culinary uses, but for its ability to harmonize inner vision with outward action. Basil is the rare herb that doesn't live in abstraction. It translates intention into movement. It bridges the invisible with the visible, spirit with strategy, prayer with plan. That is why it is so often placed in the wealth, southeast, and recognition, south, sectors of the home. These are zones that do not tolerate stagnation. They are areas that reflect how you show up in the world, financially, professionally, creatively. And basil is the plant that steps in to say, decide, act, lead. From an elemental standpoint, basil brings together fire and wood. It grows vigorously like wood, full of upward energy, expanding rapidly, almost demanding attention. But it also carries the frequency of fire, associated with clarity, spiritual insight, invisible transformation. This makes it ideal for activating zones in the home where confidence, leadership, or recognition are essential. The southeast sector, responsible for long-term abundance, thrives on continual input. Basil's energetic push fuels the ongoing decisions, negotiations, and actions that sustain wealth, not just the kind found in a bank account, but the deeper kind found in a well-aligned life. In the South, which governs reputation, legacy, and how one is seen in the world, basil amplifies authenticity. It clarifies your voice, reinforces your sense of purpose, and supports the integrity of the image you project. Unlike more passive herbs, basil requires interaction. It responds to being touched. This is not a plant to forget in the corner. It wants sunlight, airflow, and a role. This is why its ideal placement is in zones of regular motion: kitchen counters, desk corners, creative stations. Where ideas are birthed, meals are made, or strategies are developed, basil becomes a co-conspirator in clarity. It reminds you that spirit is not separate from schedule, and that discipline can be a sacred act when rooted in alignment. A pot of basil on your countertop does more than flavor your food. It flavors your mindset. Every time you pass it, every time you touch a leaf, every time you inhale its fragrance, you are engaging in micro-alignment. That is feng shui at its most dynamic, small movements with cumulative spiritual impact. To further amplify basil's energetic resonance, it can be planted or potted in a red ceramic container. Red, representing fire in the 5 elements, ignites basil's inner strength. It doesn't make the plant louder, it makes its energy more precise. The red container becomes a frame for basil's frequency, directing it towards spiritual courage and tangible action. When placed near a workspace or altar where choices are made, the basil red pot combination signals decisiveness. It says, this is not just a place of dreaming, it's a place of doing. Basil also has a long-standing role across spiritual systems. In Eastern traditions, it is considered sacred and used to purify homes, temples, and energy fields. In Western folklore, basil was planted in front of homes to protect from evil and carried as a charm to ward off misfortune. But what links these traditions is a shared understanding. Basil is not just about protection, it is about direction. It doesn't shield by walling off, it shields by clearing the way forward. It helps dissolve energetic confusion, psychic fog, and decision paralysis. This makes it invaluable in times of personal transition, new careers, new relationships, entrepreneurial ventures, or creative pursuits that require conviction. If you've been struggling to make a decision or feel scattered across too many tasks, basil helps consolidate energy. It brings your attention back to the core question: what do I stand for and how do I act from that place? One of the most powerful yet simple ways to work with basil on an energetic level is through physical contact. Before an important meeting, ritual, or decision, gently rub a basil leaf between your palms and inhale. Feel its scent move into your solar plexus, that center of personal power just above your navel. Let the aroma wake up your confidence, not in a hyped or inflated way, but in a grounded, informed way. You're not faking authority, you're remembering it. This is a ritual that doesn't require candles or incense or elaborate preparation. It requires presence, intention, and a relationship with the plant. That's the most traditional form of feng shui, working with living elements in real time for real needs. In homes where there is entrepreneurial activity, creative ambition, or leadership development, basil should be treated as a spiritual teammate, not ornamental, functional. It thrives in sunlight because its frequency wants exposure, clarity, transparency, visibility. It should not be hidden in shaded corners. Let it bask and let it remind you to do the same. If you're launching something, an idea, a business, a new chapter, basil becomes a launch partner. If you're refining your public image, your professional role, or even your inner narrative, basil helps burn through distortion and bring forward essence. It is a plant that supports ambition without ego. That's a rare gift in both gardens and lives. In families or partnerships, basil helps reinforce collective purpose. Placed in shared cooking spaces, it activates collaboration. When family members cook together near basil, there is a subtle elevation in the energetic tone. Disagreements soften, communication sharpens. Meals become rituals instead of routines. In solo households, basil keeps the solo energy clear, not lonely, but directed. It reminds you that solitude is not absence, but preparation. It holds space until the next right step reveals itself. And in homes that have become too mental, where planning replaces intuition, where strategy overtakes joy, basil gently redirects energy back to integration. It reminds the home and its inhabitants that spirit without structure is chaos, and structure without spirit is lifeless. It calls for synthesis, and in that synthesis, abundance follows, not as a reward, but as a byproduct of alignment. So while many herbs support, buffer, or clarify, basil does something rare. It integrates. It brings together will, heart, body, and environment into one coherent field. You don't just grow basil, you grow decisiveness, you grow confidence. You grow the courage to act from a place of spiritual truth. In feng shui, that is the highest aim of all design. Balm the design, not to decorate, but to awaken. Basil does that, not through complexity, but through bold simplicity, through fragrance that moves you forward, through presence that sharpens your own. And in every leaf, it whispers the reminder, your next right step is already within reach. You just have to move toward it. Common mistake to avoid. One of the most frequent yet least addressed missteps in working with herbs as energetic allies in feng shui is the tendency to treat them as static, decorative fixtures, objects that merely sit by a window, looking lovely but performing no real function. This misunderstanding often stems from an aesthetic approach to interior greenery rather than an intentional one. But in feng shui, the distinction between a passive object and an active energy participant is everything. The principle is simple but profound. Qi responds to intention. If the herb is not engaged with, touched, smelled, worked into your daily rituals, it becomes a dormant element, not a living transmitter. The energy it was meant to move begins to stagnate, and in doing so, it can inadvertently create more energetic clutter than clarity. Think of herbs as living instruments. You wouldn't buy a violin and expect it to transform your home through silence. In the same way, a pot of basil or a sprig of lavender will not elevate your qi just by existing in your space. You must interact with them. Run your fingers along the mint when you pass by. Crush a basil leaf in your palm before making a decision. Rub lavender between your hands as you wind down from the day. Steep lemon balm in water and let its vapor rise as you breathe through a tense moment. These interactions are not trivial. They are energetic cues that tell the space you are participating, that you're conscious, that you're awake to what the moment calls for. Another mistake that dulls the potency of these herbs is poor spatial distribution. A kitchen windowsill lined with 6 potted herbs may look abundant, but energetically it creates a zone of wood overload. In the 5-element system, wood energy is expansive, upward moving, and connected to growth and initiation. But like anything unchecked, too much wood, especially in one tight area, leads to imbalance. It becomes aggressive, dominating, scattered. If this herb cluster is also poorly lit or crammed into a corner, it creates chi congestion, not flow. Instead of moving energy across your space, it pulls it, then dulls it. This stagnation eventually manifests as emotional burnout, decision fatigue, or even relational friction, especially if the herbs are placed in family or wealth zones where the energetic stakes are high. To correct this, you must return to placement with purpose. Each herb has an elemental frequency and a functional zone. Mint, being the initiator and mental activator, thrives near entrances, doorways or transitional chi points, and mint reinforces the movement of fresh energy in and out of your home. Lavender, with its sedative yin signature, belongs in restful or reflective zones like the bedroom, meditation space, or northeast quadrant associated with inner knowledge. Basil, bold and clarifying, is best situated in your productivity areas, near your kitchen counter, your home office, or your altar for goal setting and planning. Lemon balm, with its harmonizing influence, does its best work in communal zones like dining tables, kitchens, or family conversation corners. When these herbs are spread throughout the space based on their energetic role, they form a subtle but intelligent network that moves chi dynamically and supportively through the entire home. This elemental distribution not only respects the unique function of each plant, but also prevents the wood energy from overwhelming any single location. It introduces balance through diversity, a principle at the heart of both feng shui and ecological design. Just as no single element should dominate a Bagua map, no single energetic frequency should dominate a room. The house must breathe as an organism, and the herbs are part of its respiratory system. When used consciously, they inhale tension and exhale clarity. When clumped and ignored, they stifle breath and lose voice. So the next time you purchase or tend to your herbs, pause and ask not just where they will look best, but where they are needed most. Ask how they will live with you, not just near you. Will the mint support your morning clarity? Will the basil sharpen your daily action? Will the lemon balm hold space for emotional reset? Will the lavender guide you into restorative sleep? These questions reshape your relationship with the plants from one of aesthetic arrangement to energetic partnership. And remember, a neglected herb is not just a missed opportunity, it can become an energetic warning. Wilting, drooping, or discolored leaves reflect more than poor watering habits. In feng shui, plants act as energetic mirrors. If they begin to show signs of distress, ask yourself, where is the corresponding distress in your own energy? Are you holding back words, avoiding decisions, ignoring emotional cues? Your plants may be signaling what you have not yet verbalized. Listen to them, let them guide you, not just decorate for you. Ultimately, the power of herbs in feng shui lies in their ability to make the invisible visible, to bring the abstract language of qi into tangible form. But their magic is only accessible through respect, interaction, and placement with purpose. Don't treat them like decor. Treat them like dialogue. Spread them with care, touch them with gratitude, and let them remind you that every object in your home either participates in your balance or distracts from it. Herbs are here to participate. The question is, are you letting them? Final. If you've made it this far, you already know this isn't just a conversation about plants. It's about power, your power to shape the emotional climate of your home, the energy of your days, and the subtle atmosphere that surrounds every choice you make. Because your home holds a mood, not a color palette, not a trend, but a frequency. That frequency is shaped by what lives inside it. Not just the walls, but the energies, the habits, the breath of each room. And herbs, though small, are among the most ancient and intelligent tools for tuning that frequency toward harmony. Mint doesn't just cool the air, it calls in forward motion. It tells your energy, you are not stuck, you are beginning again. Lemon balm doesn't just calm, it restores emotional rhythm and reminds your home to be a place where unspoken tension melts into shared understanding. Lavender isn't merely relaxing, it holds the edges of your inner world so you don't have to be everything, everywhere, all at once. And basil? It's not just bold in flavor, it's bold in presence. It speaks to the parts of you that know who you are and just need a little fire to act like it. These are not just plants, they are companions, teachers, and quiet co-creators in the kind of life you're trying to build. So take a moment to pause, not just to reflect, but to feel. Which one of these herbs is calling you most right now? Is it mint with its momentum, lemon balm with its harmony, lavender with its sacred boundary, basil with its unshakable drive? Let me know in the comments, because that connection, that resonance you feel, is the first sign that your space is ready to shift. And when you share your experience, you help someone else recognize that shift in themselves. If this video stirred something in you, an idea, a desire to reset, a sense of grounded clarity, I invite you to share it with someone who might be ready for the same. Someone who loves herbs, lives with pets, and wants their home to feel more aligned with their inner life. Let's build that community together, one pot, one story, one act of attention at a time. And before you go, if this content has helped you reconnect with your space in a more meaningful way, I ask you gently, gratefully, to support this channel. Give it a like, leave a comment with your experience, share it with someone who needs it, and please subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. I'm on the journey to 2,000 followers, and with every new subscriber, we move closer to bringing more grounded, poetic, energy-aligned content into homes that are longing to feel like sanctuaries again. Thank you for walking this path with me. May your home reflect your spirit, your herbs nourish your clarity, and your days unfold with quiet, intentional beauty. Until next time, stay rooted, stay present, and remember, the energy you're seeking is already within you. You're just learning to tend to it.